What the left has seen is that it is not difficult, it is entirely feasible for the government to seize control of every aspect of your life, to tell you you can't leave your home, you can't go to your business, you can't see your loved ones, you can't go to a funeral, you can't get married, you can't go to a doctor unless you're basically going to die unless you do. Wasn't hard for them to create this. Wasn't hard for them to get to this point. Didn't take very long, did it? Do you think that the left now sees this and figures, well, that was a one-off? No, of course not. They've seen that Americans' love of freedom is unfortunately a minority position now. A minority of the American people care enough about freedom to do something about what has happened in this country. Now, fortunately, there are still tens of millions of us who care about individual freedom, the Constitution, and basic dignity and human rights, because all of this has been cast aside, right? We had cops arresting people for going to playgrounds with their own children because of what the politicians and the media said. And now the same politicians and the media are telling us that cops can't arrest lunatics running around throwing bricks through windows because social justice or because systemic racism. So what you have here is, and just walk through the steps, the establishment of America as ready for government total control. It's not a position that everyone shares, but enough. It wasn't hard to scare over 51% of the American people into their homes, was it? And also to tell us that we had no choice. Where are the big protests? Tea Party movement, where are you? How about a return? How about that? Now, I know we don't have Trump out on the stump. We don't have the mobilization. This is all a left-wing mobilization, this Black Lives Matter stuff. They've done this before. Nothing came of it that was good. Didn't save minority communities. Didn't save anybody. In fact, people have a right to protest, yes, and I do support that right, and it feels a bit like unnecessary throat clearing to have to say it all the time. But I also have a right to say that their movement isn't going to make anything better for anyone, and so far has only made things worse for everyone. Worse. That's all it's done. It's damaging. It's destructive. It's hateful. It's spiteful. It's not about having a conversation. It's not about reforming anything. You've got to be kidding me. Where is that happening? Defund police is reform? You know, people who... It's amazing to do how many individuals who are a part of these protests and these movements never really stop and think, what does it mean to be a cop? What are you really dealing with every day? And law enforcement officers, yes, they put themselves at risk. They put themselves on the line. But they're also asked, to anyone that you, if you really know somebody who is in law enforcement, they are asked to, yes, protect old ladies from being bludgeoned and assaulted and God knows what on their way home every night. Yeah, they do that. Thank God. But they also have to step in and be a servant of the public for so much of the societal dysfunction that's out there. They're called into domestic disputes. They're called into, neighbors who are getting too heated with each other and somebody might pull a weapon. I mean, they're dealing with that stuff all the time. And millions of police and public contacts. And the cops are lowering the temperatures. The cops are making sure that husband knows, you put your hands on that wife, we're going to lock you up. Time to cool down, buddy. I mean, the cops are stepping in all across the country doing this. I've got a cop in my family. I work with the NYPD. If you actually know these people, they're us. They're just us. They are the community. They live in the areas that they are policing, or they're from the regions. If you're going to be NYPD, you got to be in the New York area. And yet, it's just amazing how quickly this narrative we've gone from cheering for first responders, including cops, to demonizing cops and being told that we don't need them anymore. The only thing that could do this is a mass mobilization of the left, the Democrat Party, and say it. These are Democrats. These are Democrats who are destroying cities. These are Democrats who are calling cops racist murderers. These are Democrats who want to disband police departments. There are no Trump supporters involved. This is not bipartisan. When I say the left, I mean to be more inclusive. But understand this, Democrats are on the left. They are a part of this. They are behind this. They are this. And so what really is the goal? Because you'd have to ask, how could anyone be so crazy? What is the goal? Well, today there's all these polls that are circulating showing that Biden here, this CNN poll shows Biden up 14 points over Trump. Drudge Report today, which I don't know when Drudge went never Trump, but it's a sad thing to see it happening. Drudge Report today has that Trump has the lowest approval, or rather the approval was at Jimmy Carter levels, 38%. This is the plan. I just told you, I mean, that's the goal. Everything else that we're talking about and getting into the minutia of details with police and policing and communities and all this stuff, it's all a distraction. It's about the mobilization and the destruction of different aspects, the mobilization of the left and the destruction of peace, order, prosperity, create a perception that things are going badly in this country. It's about power. And in that sense, the left is successful right now. What happens if they don't mobilize in this way? What happens if they're not taking to the streets, shutting down cities, burning down neighborhoods? You know what people will be looking at right now? Wow. First of all, we were lied to largely by the left, by the elites, by politicians about the intelligence of their counter-COVID measures and also the lethality of this virus, which is if you're under 50, you are being absurd, unless you have some special medical condition, to worry day in and day out about contracting COVID in terms of the risk to your own health. If you're over 70, it's a substantial risk. But remember, if the people around you are taking basic precautions, and if you are able to get more resources to the people who really need it, who are at higher risk, that's a much more effective strategy than just telling everyone to lock themselves at home, which is what we did. But it's all working out the way the left wants it to. And you have to remember, they're not geniuses, right? There's not some incredible plan that's so intricate and everything else. No, it's channel the rage in the anti-Trump era of people who have been locked away for months. And some of them, I'm sure, most of them believing that they needed to do this. And they don't want to blame the people, their own side. They don't want to blame, CNN anchors and Democrat Party officials who were saying, stay home, that's the responsible thing to do. So all that rage, all that psychological duress, which is widespread across the nation right now. We have run a mental health experiment, the likes of which nobody ever could have imagined. And the damage done to our collective mental health is massive. And they're taking all that rage and anger and frustration and I mean psychological instability, and channeling it into the most destructive and divisive causes possible, because the rest of the country looking on at this just wants anything but this. Anything but this. And that's how you get to Trump's sinking approval ratings and Joe Biden, a confused, inept buffoon who will be a puppet of the Democrat left if he wins the election. That's how you get him with a lead over Trump. And that is the point. That's what all of this is about. The same way that they created this whole mythology of Russia collusion, all a lie. There was no Russia collusion. How many times did you hear that talked about in the media? It was all a fantasy. But it was to create the perception of Donald Trump as a traitor. And if he's a traitor, it doesn't matter how prosperous the country is. It doesn't matter that we're not expanding wars in the Middle East, invading countries we don't need to. Sorry, neocons. Doesn't matter. He's a traitor, you see. And that gave this psychological safe space, you could call it, for the left to hate Trump beyond any boundaries of reason or evidence. It gave them that refuge of disdain. That's where they would go. Oh, look at Russia collusion. Trump is Putin's puppet. I was coming on this show, and you know this, telling you the country is doing incredibly well. Enjoy this. It's amazing. I know other hosts are always running around yelling, it's terrible, I hate it. They're always yelling something about how bad this is or how terrible that is. Yeah, we have fights, we have challenges, but I'm out there telling you that things were actually going incredibly well under Trump, and that's why they had to create this lie of Russia collusion. Because otherwise people might start to see with their own lying eyes that the country's great. and that Obama was terrible for the economy, and that Obama wasn't the leader that the left pretended he was. But now they have a real crisis, and what are they doing? They're just trying to twist the knife in America's back, just make this even more difficult to come out of. We got hit with COVID. It was a terrible situation, made so much worse by the policy decisions, and the psycho left has been all locked up, and they don't know what to do with themselves, and you got the virtue signaling libs trying to, rabble-rouse on the streets now, and all of it is what? Meant to make sure that perception is this country is falling apart because of Donald Trump. And because Donald Trump is so bad at this job, we must replace him, even with a complete imbecile like Joe Biden. Just get that 1 or 2% of the voters to switch and give Biden a shot. Anything is better than this. They will destroy America as much as they can, as long as it means that whatever's left of America is in their hands starting in January of 2021. That's all this is. Make no mistake about it.
Hey, Team Buck, thank you so much for watching The First on YouTube. If you like this video, please click that little thumbs up button so then it will log as liked. And also, if you want to see more great content from The First, please click subscribe.